All right, yesterday I asked you to look through these magazines with the idea of looking for pots that transition from wide to narrow wide, or the opposite, right? Wide to narrow wide in a different way. So they had to have, either a foot, a neck, a shoulder, a body, or the mouth, like 4 of those 5 components. And then I asked you to record all of the details that you were interested in as well, okay? We got through that part. The next step, these pieces of pottery, they belong to other people. That's somebody else's design, somebody else's idea. You were drawn to them for a reason, because of your aesthetic. However, we're not going to copy those things. We are going to use them as inspiration to create something that's uniquely our own, though, okay? And the way I've kind of plotted this out design-wise on your little worksheet is that you're going to begin taking things, for instance, from box 1 and box 2 to create something that is uniquely your own. Borrowing things that you like from each, but designing something that belongs to you, okay? Now, in the past, a lot of people have kind of asked, well, what if I think it would be better to combine box 2 with box 6? Is that okay? I'm fine with that. The idea is that you're taking at least 2, it could even be 3 different pieces into a new box design. So far, so good? This makes sense? Yes, okay. And you do that 3 different times to come up with 3 things that are uniquely your own. So for instance, in box 3 and 4, I took this form, but this concept of a piece kind of ending at a stagger and having a coil that goes from thick to thin down the body, and instead of just doing one to make it my own, I added on multiple to make this sort of interesting line design, okay? From there, you're gonna flip over the page. But I'll leave mine like this just so that you can kind of see what's going on. And I'll turn them your way so you can see even a little bit better. At this point in design time, I want you to move into utilizing design principles to strengthen the designs, okay? And the idea is that now you're going to borrow common elements from this box and this box to create something new in this box. So you're kind of like narrowing it down, but then also refining, adding, tweaking as you go. And for this part, you also have to put in some principles of design. Now, I've got the principles listed here. They are balance, repetition, pattern, movement, contrast, emphasis, and rhythm. And you have to pick at least 2 that you're demonstrating in the design from a new combination, okay? So for instance, in this piece right here, I focused on balance and pattern. And you can see I've taken this form, but I've put this linear kind of design concept on it to emphasize the really long neck and the fact that it kind of fans out, right? And then I added a foot just because I thought that that would be interesting and decorative. It doesn't exist in either one of these, but I just personally thought it would make a stronger design, okay? Now, in terms of balance, how is it balanced? You guys just tell me really quick. It's perfectly symmetrical. There's a line here, there's a line here, there's a line here, there's a line here. The form is symmetrical too, right? Where's the patterning? The lines over and over again, right? Okay. Is there any kind of repetition? The lines, right? Is there a visual movement in the piece? Does your eye go any specific way? Up and down and up. Is there contrast in the piece? Some sort of drastic change between one thing and another? Wide to narrow, smooth surface versus raised linear pattern, right? Is there emphasis? Is there any place that you look first when you look at this design? The bottom, maybe even the pattern. Is there rhythm? Rhythm is basically repeating things to create this idea of visual movement. The reason I'm going through this is because I want you to see I've selected 2 things, but really to make my successful design, I've kind of done all of these things, or at least was kind of thinking about them intuitively, whether I was plotting them out. But I'm asking you to really think about at least 2 and design them in there, okay? Once you've done this 2 times, then you have to commit to something. And by that, I mean, if I love this design, I would draw it here again. If I wanted to just change a little itsy bitsy thing, like take the foot off, that's okay, I can still make tweaks, but once I draw it here, I'm going to be held to that. What I mean is, your grade will reflect whether or not you make what you said you're going to make, and there's a reason for that. In part, coil pot building can be challenging at times, and I don't want you to just start building something, have something go awry, and then throw in the towel. There's really no learning, or not as much learning there as there would be trying to figure out how to make it right and adjusting so that it becomes correctly built, okay? So that's why I'm going to hold you to it. I'm also telling you that because you get to design your challenge. A form like this is challenging, but a form like this is much more challenging, okay? And remember how I said yesterday, designs like this that are really wide at the bottom with extreme angles and then narrow necks, those are tough to build in coil pot form. So if you don't want a really big challenge, then I would say do something that's a little bit more gradual in how it increases and decreases in form. That's just easier to build, okay? I'm not trying to hide anything from you, but I just want you to know that is one of the requirements. Also, the project requirements are listed right here, and you'll notice that it says your ability to replicate what you propose that you're going to make, that your walls increase and decrease because you've got 4 of those 5 components at least, that you have uniform thickness in your coils, which I'll show you later, that your surfaces look good and intentional, smoothed out, not textural in a way that they shouldn't be. And the one thing that I believe it doesn't say on my sheet, but it does say on yours, is that everything needs to be at least 8 inches tall or at least 8 inches wide. So let's say I wanted to make a fruit bowl, okay? I could build something that's low and wide. That's totally acceptable, but it needs to be at least 8 inches wide. Or if I didn't want to do that, I could build something taller, more like a base form, even if I'm going to change it into a pitcher or something like that, but it has to be at least 8 inches tall. So far, so good? Okay. When I get to this point, and I just have a student example here that I was going to show you, since hers is kind of drawn in there, right? When I get to that point, your next step, and you can do this part today too, is to create a template. All right, and a template is basically going to be the component or the little tool or strategy that helps you stay on track with building the correct form. And you'll see when I show you how to build your forms how that comes into play a little bit more. But to create one, most of you are going to probably be building symmetrical coil pots. If you're not, then your process for this might change a little bit. But if you are going to build something symmetrical, then you can fold your paper in half. And I've got a ruler here because if I know I want to build 8 inches and no more, then I could literally make a little line here, and then when I draw out my form, I can draw it exactly to 8 inches and have it be the right height. For a design like this, 8 inches looks pretty small, okay? And one of the things I can tell you too, if you have a long skinny neck, because you're just kind of going around with little coils, that builds pretty fast. So if you wanted something to be more dramatic and it's thin, that's easy to do. So I'm actually going to go ahead and give myself about 11 inches, just so that I have a little taller neck. And then what I'm going to do is basically just kind of draw half of the form. I'm doing it in pen. You can do it in pencil. That way you can erase until you're happy with it. And I'm going to kind of draw that fan-like shape down. Next step would be go ahead and cut it out.
It's like a stuff.
Like a And turning in this template is part of your grade, so you don't want to lose that either. And there will be 2 pieces, and they both perform a very, very important role in building your coil pot, constructing it. It does not have to have a narrow top, no. That just happens to be my design.
Like the opening is actually smaller.
It doesn't have to be, but you do have to have, 4 of those 5 components. So you might have some kind of a neck, but it doesn't have to be a really skinny neck. It could be a wide neck. So at this point, when I open it up, I really get a good visual of what it would look like if I build it, okay? And if I'm not happy, it's time to just get another piece of paper and make another one until I am happy. This kind of helps me decide how big my base will be when I begin building, so it's really important for that too. Then this one is not as important anymore, and this one becomes the one that is really crucial, because as I begin stacking coils, 1, 2, 3, if I've got them laying here, I can put this negative template against it and make sure my angles are right. Oh, when do I stop going up? When do I start going in? How tall is this supposed to be? Am I building them out at the correct angle? Okay, so these are very important, and it's important that you get them to look exactly how you want them to look. Any questions at this point? You feel like you know what to do? Yeah? Do it.